Well, it's that time of the year that the kids are going back to school. I have 2 of my 4 grandchildren that are in school this year, and one of them is starting to learn how to read. And the rest of them love to read. Like, they'll look at the books, they love to be read to. Plus, my children love to read. So today we're going to make some bookmarks. We're going to make it 3 different styles. We're going to have a heart, a triangle that you can personalize, and then the traditional long skinny bookmark. So hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jackie with Jackie Russell Creates, where we talk about everything quilting. I hope to inspire you to make traditional patchwork quilts or art quilts, whether they're big or small. So let's get started. So the first one I'm going to make is the long one. You could use some not fat quarters. You can use some jelly rolls for this. This is 2.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches long. You could actually make it with any length to match the book. I just went and picked through my scrap bin. So all 3 of these could be great for helping get rid of some of your scraps. And then you're going to need either some batting or some fleece or flannel, just a scrap roughly the same size. And then I picked out some fuzzy yarn, some ribbon, some twine that we're going to use as the little tassel on these bookmarks. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay your batting down first, one of your pieces of fabric facing up, and then we need to put our tassel in right here. So I'm just going to cut I'm going to use this wool fab thread. I guess it's yarn. It's called Yarn Bee Romantique. It is Vanilla Frosty. It's just some fuzzy thread yarn I had. So I'm just going to take some of that. I just looped it several times. And I'm just going to tie around just so it will hold it in place here while I sew around it. So when does school start for where you guys are at? Ours will be here in a couple days from the time this video is released. We do not go year round here. They get out in June and they don't go back to the end of August. And that's going to be on the inside. So you want to put your tassel so it's facing down. And I'm putting the thread that I tied just right even with the edge. And then we're going to flip the other piece right on top of that facing down. And I'm going to pin these in place, matching up the edges and the corners. And I'm doing what's called a pillow per se binding. You can also base spray or use the Elmer's glue method because these are, a smaller project they'll hold up. If you didn't want to turn it around like we're going to do in this one, you can cut it with some pink shears and just stitch around the edge and just leave it with the pinked edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew 1/4 inch around this, but I'm going to leave between probably roughly here about 1 inch or so we can flip it around. When I do get up here to the tassel, I'm going to go back and forth on that a couple times just to reinforce that tassel stays in there. And then you'll also want to go the back stitch a couple stitches at the beginning and end here, just because we're going to be turning it through. So if you were just going to do the pinking shear method, you would actually cut your batting just a tad bit smaller than your fabric pieces. And you would just lay them up on top of each other like you would do a sandwich, quilt sandwich. And then you would just stitch 1/4 inch around the seam. Now you could also punch a hole here to put your ribbon or your tassel in, or you can do like I'm doing. You can actually make a tassel or purchase a tassel and stitch in. So that's another option for these. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to do the 1/4 inch around this bookmark. So now that we have it all sewn, we're going to clip the corners. Just be sure not to clip into the stitches you just did. And you can see on the back where I back stitched over that a couple times. So when you go to flip it, you want to make sure you go in between the two pieces of fabric, and you're just going to turn it around. There's our tassel. So the grandkids kind of help pick out what they wanted for their tassel part of their bookmark. So, but you can use pretty much anything for the tassel. You don't even have to put a tassel on if you don't want to. Then you gotta make sure all the corners are poked out really good. You can actually quilt this however you would like to quilt it. I'm just going to do a stitch to hold the seam down just around the edge. But first I'm going to take this over and iron it, or press it open here, or press it flat so it's easier to iron or stitch. And then we're just going to stitch around the outside. And there is this bookmark. Now there is the first bookmark. Now because these are small, and this one can be reversible, but because these are small, these will be great to come in here and practice your free motion quilting on. You can draw on a design, like you can do loop-de-doops, or you can practice your like swirlies, your leaf patterns or something like that. And this gives you more control to be able to learn to do them. So when you get to your bigger projects, it's more efficient. So yeah, you can practice your free motion in there. So there's the first one. So the second one we're going to do is just a plain corner triangle one. And you're going to need 3 pieces of fabric that are 4 by 4. And I'm doing some key vintage looking fabric. So I picked this gray fabric. And then you're going to need 2 pieces of batting or fleece flannel that are the same size. What we're going to do is we're going to take 1 piece and we're going to fold it in half on the diagonal. This is going to be our pocket. So I'm just folding it both to see which one I want to have there. I think I like this one. Okay, so this is going to be my pocket. So I'm folding it in half. You're going to take a piece of batting and you're going to fold it in half. And then this one you're going to cut because you just want the triangle. I will have the cutting in the description. And then you're going to lay this one in here. And if you have to trim it a little bit, go ahead and trim just a smidge off of all edges. And be careful not to stretch, like the batting will stretch. Just be careful not to stretch it too much, because you want the batting to lay inside this folded piece. So now I'm going to go iron this or press it. Then we're going to take your flannel or your batting. You're going to place your fabric right side up. You're going to put your triangle in there, and then you're going to put this fabric right side down. So you're going to have batting, fabric right side up, your triangle, and you want to have so your open pieces are at the top. So then the folded piece is down here in the middle, and then your other fabric right side down, pretty side down. You're going to pin. You can also use wonder clips here. It'd probably be easier since it is a little thicker. I would recommend using the walking foot on this as well, because it's pretty thick up here. And you're going to sew around this, leaving a little section to turn. All I'm doing is making sure I'm getting all the corners lined up here. That's how simple it is. And then we're going to sew around, but we're going to leave just about an inch or so for turning. We're going to do it just the same as we did this one. So I left a little hole here. You're going to make sure that you go, first of all, clip those corners, and then you're going to come in between the pieces of the fabric and flip it, making sure to, push out them corners, poking out all the, I like to take and run my poker through the edge, make sure, pull that seam out. And this is where, like I said, you can personalize it. You can take and put, their initial here if you have the embroider machine. If you want to hand embroider. Now we're just going to do about 1/8 of an inch all the way around to help the seam, or close this up, or you can whip stitch it by hand. Do a hand stitch. And there is the second bookmark. So this is what you're going to need for your third bookmark. You're going to need 2 pieces at 5 inches square. You're going to need another piece that is 5 inches by 3.5 inches. You're going to need about a 2.5 inch square for your applique, and then just a piece of scrap batting. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your smaller heart and you're going to trace it onto a piece of fusible onto the paper side. You do want to make sure you get the lines in the middle. They'll just help you later. And you'll want to use a regular pin to mark, not a friction pin. Then we're going to iron this to the back side of our fabric. You'll want to roughly cut out if you're using a bigger piece. I just found a scrap, so you just want to do about 1/4 inch around the edge. We're going to iron this onto the wrong side. Let that cool for a minute. Then you're going to cut around the line. I'm going to score the paper so I can peel it off easily. And we're going to iron that to our scrap fabric, our scrap batting. And then you're going to cut that out. Then I'm going to take that piece that I pulled off, that paper I pulled off, and I'm going to use a friction pen and kind of draw lines. I know it's the center of the heart, but this way, you do have, I don't mind eyeballing it, but in case you don't want to eyeball it, you can draw the lines. You can take a ruler and draw them all the way across, just so you have them for a reference. Okay. Then you're going to take one of your 5-inch squares, and to find my center, I just folded it in half. You could take your big heart and line, up and draw the little lines to mark. But like I said, I just folded mine. And I'm going to spray base just this heart, just a little bit, so it'll hold on while I stitch. And you just want to line up your pin markings with your folded lines. Give it a good press. Now we know that this heart applique is now in the center of our fabric. We're going to take it over to the sewing machine. You can stitch around this however you want. I'm going to do a blanket stitch, but you can do a straight stitch, you can do a satin stitch, you can do a zigzag stitch. You can stitch it by hand, however you prefer. And there we have our heart applique onto our background fabric. Now you're going to want to take the other 5-inch square and you're going to fold it diagonal so wrong sides are together, and you're going to give that a press because this is going to be your pocket. Okay, you're going to want to lay your square down that has your applique on it. Then you're going to lay your triangle, and I'm matching up the center line, and it should hang off by about 1 inch. Then you're going to take your 5 and 3.5 inch square or rectangle. You're going to place it on the top with the right side facing down, and you're going to, so it's sandwiched just like that. You're going to take your heart, your big heart, and you're going to line them up. The triangle is on the center fold, or the center, so if you can kind of line up that mark there. Then you're going to use your friction pen, and you're going to trace around that heart. And I'm going to be sure to pin this down so nothing moves while I take it over to the sewing machine. You're going to actually pin or stitch on that line that you just drew, right along that line. You do not have to leave an opening. You're going to continue to stitch all the way around with a regular stitch. And because I am doing these corners, I'm going to shorten my stitch length just a little bit. On my machine, it's set at 2.4. I'm going to take it down to about a 1.8. It just really helps with those curves. And now you're going to cut off this excess close to the stitch line. Just make sure you don't cut into the stitches you just did. And when you get to this point, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to go right down into that point. Just make sure you don't cut your stitches. I like to use my little scissors for that. And then I'm also going to snip the corner. And right here, we have that opening because we cut the 1.5 inches off or made this one shorter. That's where we're going to, I just stick my finger in there and we're going to turn it around. I like to run my finger or a turning stick around into those seams to help get those curves out. And then make sure you flip your triangle to the back, poking out that corner. And then I'm going to iron it just to flatten it for one, but also to get rid of all those friction pin marks that we had on there. And there is the bookmark. You just take some pages, slide up in here, and that will hold your place in your book for reading. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make bookmarks 3 different ways to personalize for those readers in your family or as gifts. They'd also make great small items to have for vendor events. I'm almost thinking, you know, this may be a simple, easy project to give to the teacher to hand out to readers if they're, you know, they accomplish by reading so many books a month, a year, however they do it, would be a great idea. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below if you have some readers and which one of these were your favorite that you think that you would like to try. And if you're new here and you feel like sticking around and want to learn more about making quilts, art quilts, or different sewing projects, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you know the next time I upload a video. Until then, happy quilting, my friends.